Boy howdy. We've got a doozy for you today here at Pod Hour. Another episode of Odds Thoughts. So I want to welcome you, for those of you listening on the podcast, and for those of you who are watching on the YouTube channel, you can see me. Hi. And for those of you listening, hi. I love you, all of you. Thank you for giving me a little bit of your time. But I won't waste any time. Let's start talking about CyberPunk 2077. Now, let's be clear about something. As I discuss this, I'm going to talk more and more about what I know and what I don't know. And the things that I don't know, my computer's right here, I'm looking at the screen. I'm going to do research because it's important to know that just because I am here talking into a microphone and to a camera does not mean I have all the answers or that I know everything. Okay, I could sit here and do endless amounts of research, but there will always be something that I miss. You get what I'm saying. It's important that you understand what I say comes in a more casual sense, and if there's any questions that come to mind, I will look them up to give you the best and nothing less. With that being said, let's talk about CyberPunk. Now, I pre-ordered... I don't have a structure for this, by the way. Sorry. This is just going to be kind of free-flowing. When I do an episode of Odds Thoughts, I just kind of let it go. I have notes, but I don't like following them. They're more of things to touch upon. It's not like a structure or a schedule I adhere to. So let's discuss. I pre-ordered CyberPunk 2077 in January of 2020, which was about 8 years ago. We're recording this on December 18th, 2020, so about 8 years. And I got it because it looked interesting, and it was $10 cheaper on Amazon than it usually is. You know, sometimes Amazon will, they sell games for $60, but sometimes they'll be $49.94. And that's, if you pre-order it, or you get the game at that price, that's the price you pay. So it's been pre-ordered since January. I pre-ordered it with Marvel's Avengers, mistake, and Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, not a mistake, great game. I didn't anticipate any delays or anything like that. I just wanted the game. So the first delay hits at some point in 2020, and it's not really a surprise, right? It's, given the current global situation, how could anybody really be surprised that anything is delayed? It's a phrase you're going to hear repeated a lot, but this is an unprecedented time in modern history. With the way technology works and how we are as a society, no one was prepared for this. And you can blame a lot of people for that. You can blame very specific people for that too. But realistically, as a game dev, how could you really anticipate that one day you're going to have to stop coming into the studio and bring all your equipment home? Or whatever you need to develop a game. Mind you, this is a game that's supposed to be genre break. I don't even know how to describe Cyberpunk. The hype surrounding Cyberpunk exceeds anything I've ever seen in my lifetime, and we're going to talk about that a little bit too. I went on a rant in a stream maybe 2 weeks ago before Cyberpunk came out, and I said straight up, Cyberpunk will not be what you think it is. That's just game expectations, right? I'm 24 years old. I've been playing video games my entire life. You get used to stuff like that. You know that the image you put in your head is not going to be the final product. So when a game like Cyberpunk comes along and it is super hyped up, you know that it's not going to meet expectations. And I was right on the money about that. Cyberpunk dropped, and the initial results were 7s, 8s, maybe a 9 here and there, but generally not the perfect game. Which is, everybody, again, you need to manage expectations because you're going to be disappointed more often than not. That's just the nature of things. If you keep your expectations low and you play things as they come and as they present themselves, you'll be a much happier person. These are just facts. So, Cyberpunk drops and everybody gets super disappointed in it. Not super disappointed, but it wasn't what they expected, whatever. But all these review places and all that stuff played it on current gen. Now, I'm going to say current gen, I'm going to say last gen. When I say current gen, I'm referring to the PlayStation 5 and the Series X. That is the current generation. That's where we are console-wise. PC is a consistent, it's a constant. It won't go anywhere. PC is not going anywhere for a very long time. especially after the 30 series, the 3070, the 3060, 3080, whatever, 3090. I don't even know. PC is not going anywhere. We know this. We're talking about console generations now. Back to my previous talk about PS5 versus Series X. You remember that everybody owns a PS4, and a significantly smaller amount of people own an Xbox One. Therefore, a lot of the reviews and people that were playing and stuff would be on PlayStation 4. And God, CyberPunk 2077 does not look good on last gen. I know why it looks bad. It's because CyberPunk was never truly meant to be a current gen game. The CD Projekt Red set their sights too high, which is interesting, right? Because I looked this up. I had no idea. CyberPunk 2077 was announced in, I want to get this right, May of 2012. May of 2012. Okay? I turned 16. I was 16 years old I was turning 16 years old the month that Cyberpunk 2077 was announced. 8 years ago. 8. That's a very long time. Now, I looked that up, and one of the first things I saw when I looked it up, right here, it's open on my, right now. I'll show you on the YouTube channel. Look at this. Right there, Cyberpunk 2077 trailer. If you're watching on YouTube, you see it, but I'm explaining it to you. For those listening on the podcast, Cyberpunk 2077 teaser trailer. January 10th, 2013. And those of you who are on the YouTube channel, you can see what I'm pointing at right now, and those of you on the podcast, I'm going to read it. At the end, when a release date would normally show, this is, again, January 2013, coming when it's ready. I laughed when I saw that, because that's just very, very funny. That's a very, very funny thing to read, given what's happening right now. So, you might be asking, hey, Odd Hour, Mukhtar, how did a game that was announced in 2012 and a teaser trailer that dropped in 2013 overshoot? And the answer is, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. If they've truly been working on this game since announcement, let's assume... Alright, let's give them the extreme benefit of the doubt here. This is being very generous. Let's assume that they didn't actually start working on the game until the first teaser trailer. Not even the announcement in May 2012, the first teaser trailer in January 2013. How did they overshoot that hard? That what? Isn't that when the PS4 and the Xbox One came out? I'll look that up. I don't want to be incorrect about this one. Xbox One release date. 2013. Okay. And the November 2013 and November 2013. So this was teased before. This was teased before we even had the PlayStation 4. As a concept, CyberPunk is older than the last generation of consoles, like being available on a market. That's bonkers. That's absolutely wild. Okay? How did they skip a generation? The reason I'm asking this is because one of the more recent updates, right? One of the more recent, one of the more recent delays of Cyberpunk 2077 was because, was because it wasn't ready on last gen consoles. How? I don't like being critical. I don't like being critical of game devs and studios because they put out content that we want. But in a situation like this is very unique. How did that happen? Now, again, benefit of the doubt, let's assume that they never wanted this to be they didn't want it to be an Xbox 360 and a PS3 game. No problem. And they didn't want it to be a PS4 and an Xbox One game. They shot that high. Let's assume they were making it just a PC game. PC games look much better by comparison. PC games run much better because that's, computers are everything. I hate to say it, but PCs really are the future. Right? I've been a console gamer my entire life, but I've mastered all 4 elements of gaming. I've got my Switch right here, I've got my PS5 right here, I've got my Series X right here, I've got a $2,500 computer right there. All 4 elements mastered. I've got PC, I've got Xbox, I've got PlayStation, I got Nintendo. I can sit here and still acknowledge the fact that computers are where it's at because this thing has staying power, right? A console, let's look at it. It's been 7 years. We're already in a new console generation. PC games have been around for what? Minecraft is how many years old now? Minecraft's not going anywhere. It just keeps getting better and better and better. And it's not going anywhere anytime soon. That's a PC game that they ported over to, what do you call it? Minecraft's not like an inherently complicated game, but you get what I'm saying. It's about the fact that PC games will outlive consoles almost indefinitely. Consoles will try to compete because there's money in it, and it's much easier, right? A $500 PlayStation or a $500 Xbox is way better than the $2,500 graphics card I have, the computer rather, or I think my graphics card like $800. I don't remember exactly how much I spent. But regardless, PC is not going anywhere. I don't think they ever planned it to be a console game. I think they aimed very, very high, knowing that computers would be the right way to go. Maybe it was only ever supposed to be a computer game. Maybe there's some outward pressure on CD Projekt Red to have made CyberPunk a console game. Because from what I've heard, it runs fairly well on not even the greatest versions of PCs. This is just what I've heard. If you're listening, if this is your first time listening to me and you've gotten this far, thank you. I encourage debate, I encourage discussion. I just ask that you remain calm about it, because we can sit here and argue personally, but like when it comes to like things like this, right, there's always room for discussion. So if you have a PC and CyberPunk is garbage on it, tell me, because that completely breaks what I'm trying to get across here. I encourage that. Now, I think that was the goal. Looking at everything that's happened, I feel like that was the goal. I called it. I said that the game would not live up to expectations, and people are going to be disappointed because hype will never live up to the actual game. It never does. More often than not, someone's going to be disappointed, and that's just life. So release date comes, and the reviews start coming out, and everybody's super excited to get it. I have my copy right here. I'm physically holding it right now. My PS4 copy that I've had pre-ordered since January. It came with a nice little booklet and some stickers and all that stuff. If I bought this from Best Buy, as of today, as of me sitting here and talking about this, if I bought this from Best Buy, I didn't. Let's say I did. It's opened. It's been used. I've played it. I can get a refund. I don't know if any other companies have been establishing a refund policy like that, but I can get a refund for this open copy of CyberPunk 2077. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Let's look at it from a couple perspectives. The first perspective is as the player. Me, specifically. It is the PS4 version, but where is that little piece of paper? In my hands, I hold a piece of the saran wrap, the plastic that the game came with. And it says, PS5 upgrade available. An upgrade to the digital PS5 version of the game at no additional cost. To upgrade eligible PS4 disc copies, players need a PS5 console with a disc drive. Now, I have a PS5 with a disc drive. Very lucky that I got that. Very, very lucky that I got that. I put it into my PS5 and I don't have any of those severe graphical issues. Like, I'm sure if you're watching this, you've seen some stuff, maybe you've encountered some stuff from your own gameplay. On last gen, it does not look good. On current gen, there are some things here and there, but it's not absolutely busted, right? So me as the consumer, as the customer here, as the person who purchased CyberPunk, I don't want to return this. But that's very subjective. Because I have a PlayStation 5. I have a current gen console. There's not that many people that can say that. How many people can say that they have a Series X or a PS5 versus how many people want one? Sony and Microsoft have continuously dropped the ball. I talked about this last episode, but it 100% plays into this. This is important. It's tied. It's 100% tied. If everybody who wanted, this is a statement, I believe this to be true, but this is a statement I'm going to make. If everybody who wants a PS5 right now, or wanted a PS5, got one, this massive refund issue would not exist. People would not be dying to refund their game. Because people would have a much better version of the game. The issue with one of the delays was that it wasn't working on last gen. Okay? That's PS4 and Xbox One. It's not working there. On current gen, it's better. I'm sure it still breaks. I found a couple bugs myself, graphical things, what have you, right? It's better, just by comparison. I don't think CyberPunk was supposed to release earlier this year. They had that set release date. So what happened from that initial release date to its actual release date of December 10th that made it not work on PS4 and Xbox One? It was going to be just on those platforms. What happened? I don't know. Straight up, I don't know. What I do know is that at some point when they transition over to current gen, it runs better. That's where they did most of their testing, I'm sure. There was a lot of hype behind the game, so I'm sure Microsoft and Sony were like, hey, we'll send you a couple of dev kits. Why don't you get over there and make us that game, buddy boy? Make it look good. We'd like to put it in a highlight reel to show off how powerful the Xbox is. And Sony saying, we'd like to put it in a PlayStation 5 reel. You get what I'm saying? I'm going to pause for a second. I'm going to go get some water. My voice is getting hoarse. So what happened? It's a good question. It's a question we should be asking. I don't like how people are villainizing CD Projekt Red. I don't think it's their fault. They listen. They were getting death threats over a video game. Okay, I understand video games are passion. It's my passion. I'm trying to turn it into a career. I'm creating content. I'm streaming daily. I'm making YouTube videos. I'm doing a bunch of stuff. One day, I'm sure I'm probably going to get a death threat, right? That's terrifying. No one should. That's not something you should be doing to people. That's not. Straight up. So under all that pressure, trying to meet a release date, a pandemic, outside pressure, I'm sure, from Xbox and Sony, they released this game that they almost definitely knew was not ready. And part of me thinks that they did it on purpose. Because they wanted people to see that it wasn't ready. Because now, look, everybody's getting their money back. We got a lot more time. Start working on those updates that you're talking about, right? I don't know. It's interesting. Sorry for the long pause. I just was going down a couple of avenues of thought. Let's talk about the return policy. Is that a good or a bad thing? I went down, me personally, subjective. Objectively, if you're not satisfied with something, you should be able to return it, get your money back. That's just how things should generally work. There are obviously exceptions to that. But for the most part, your money is your money. My thing is, if you spent the money on the game, that means you can't afford it. right? You did afford it. You have the game physically. It's yours. Why? Okay. Unless you need the money right now, I don't see a point in refunding it, because unless you truly believe that there's not going to be like a patch that fixed the game's issues, then there's no point in refunding it, because eventually you're going to have the game that you like paid for. Holding on to it and not playing it for a while may be upsetting, but you spent the money on it, which means you want it. It's not the worst idea in the world to just kind of wait it out. But again, if it's more about making a statement because you're upset, I can't hold that against you. You want your money back, it's your money. You spent it, and you didn't get what you wanted. That's why PlayStation was the first one to do it. They took it off of you can't buy Cyberpunk 27. You can't buy Cyberpunk digitally as of me saying this sentence. If you want a refund, you can get it. There's a special website, and you can even hit up CD Projekt Red themselves to get your money back. Microsoft expanded their policy today, and today is when I heard about the Best Buy thing, where if you have an open copy, you can go return and get your money back. Is that a bad thing? Maybe. It makes me worry about what's going to happen to CD Projekt Red. We like their stuff. We wanted Cyberpunk. I'm sure, I never played The Witcher, but I'm sure there are people out there who liked it. When you have to start giving money back, the company's inevitably going to have to downside. Well, hopefully not. Hopefully the investors stand true and believe in the game and the vision that CD Projekt Red had and stick by them. But realistically, money has... Maybe some would argue, maybe myself included in that, would argue that money has too much of an influence on when it comes to things. So seeing money returned to someone who only cares about money, I don't know. I think I understand why people are angry. You can't ever take anything away from people being angry. They didn't get what they wanted. I made the same argument when I talked about Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts in my Banjo 3 video. People didn't get what they wanted, and they were upset by it. But this is a situation where it's severely worse, and there is merit to get some money back. Maybe the biggest issue is that CD Projekt Red admitted fault. Like straight up just being like, we messed up. If you want your money back, you can get it. A lot of people look at that as a negative thing. That is an extremely positive thing. Do you know what that means? That means they actually care. Okay? They actually are like, we messed up. We care about you. We wanted you to play this game, and it's not what you expected. Therefore, you should get your money back. That's huge. If more game studios and game devs did that, I would be thrilled. Absolutely thrilled. How amazing is that? But right now, everyone is just so fueled with rage and anger and... Think about how angry everybody is this year. Nothing went to how you... What were your plans for 2020? Drop a comment. Hit me up. Let me know. They didn't happen. Almost likely, they didn't happen. And if they did, maybe you got sick. Maybe someone you knew got sick. This is dangerous. This is a dangerous time. 2020 has been absolutely wild. I don't think anybody has coasted off this and gotten and gotten through it clean. You know, I know I have friends who are sick right now, and I hope every day that they get better. This year was a bad time for something like this to happen. The reason I talk about it so much is because of what this year did to gaming. I believe I've talked about this before. I'm not exactly sure where. I talk about it pretty often. Let's not forget how big Animal Crossing was in March and April and May. Let's not forget that Switches were flying off of shelves, and it got to a point where you couldn't even buy a Switch if you wanted one. And it was its 3-year anniversary, and it sold out. People are getting more and more into gaming, and with that comes more and more opinions and more room for disappointment. Because casual fans, people who never played game before, getting into it, will look into Cyberpunk and be like, wow, that looks really cool. And then get disappointed. And then they get angry. That's just more people. The broader a demographic, the more people will get upset. And Cyberpunk, I can't even think of a single person who was like, oh no, I'm not interested in Cyberpunk 2077. That's how hyped this game was. If I sat here and thought about it for the next 30 minutes, I don't think I would be able to point out a single person who was like, meh. Keanu Reeves had a big part to play with that. Everybody loves Keanu Reeves. Man's a legend. I hope to meet him someday. I'd love to meet Keanu Reeves someday. That'd be amazing. What an honor it would be. Phenomenal human being. Like, forget about being like in like the movies and stuff. He's just a good person. So when Keanu Reeves gets involved, then there's like an extra layer of hype. Remember that you're breathtaking. Like, Cyberpunk has so much around it. And it's 8 years old. I still can't get over that fact. It is 8 years old. May 2012, Cyberpunk announced. I don't know. I think from a manufacturer's point of view, like the people who create the discs, I don't like. They're fine. They sold the disc. That's done. They're not gonna get refunds on discs, I don't think. From people selling them, like retailers, like GameStop, Best Buy, Amazon. Amazon can afford it. Let's be clear about something. Amazon can afford it. GameStop, maybe not. GameStop has been struggling for a while. And, well, we all kind of thought it would be on its last legs, but my theory is that this year kind of brought GameStop back a little bit. And I can prove it because I bought stock in GameStop when it was $4, and right now it's sitting at about $16, which is a significant improvement. Surprising improvement, honestly, but significant. I don't know. Like retail, like Best Buy is kind of taking the brunt of the blow by being like, yeah, open games we can return. That's gutsy. That's real gutsy. Because I could probably walk into Best Buy right now and be like, oh yeah, I bought it, but I threw out the receipt because I thought the game would be good. Okay, here's $60. Thank you. You know? I don't know. That's just assumptions and imagination. That was me drinking water. Sorry if that sounded gross. Let's look at my notes here. Oh, that's funny. The first thing on my phone at Best Buy, CyberPunk is $50. That's funny. I like that a lot. Okay. I need to look at my notes. Right, well, we knew this whole last gen thing was an issue. We just didn't think it would be a thing at launch. They've set up, I mean, if you paid even a little bit of attention, you'll see that one of the more recent delays was because they can't get it working on last gen. The fact that it's working on last gen could kind of be a miracle in and of itself. Doesn't look good, but it works. It's maybe not playable for some, but it works. I mean, if you're playing it on a PS4 that you got in November of 2013, we were talking about PS4s that need like an ice pack and 3 fans to work. My PS4 is at Mod's house, if you're familiar with the channel. It's happy, it's healthy, it's living its best life. I'm happy for it. My Series X is on my table bag. You could see my Series X right there. It sits there, it does nothing. That's the Xbox One, excuse me. My Series X is right here. And it's being very pretty. And it's my Call of Duty Black Ops 1 machine. Here, I'll just show you. In case you think I'm joking. If you're watching on YouTube, look at that. Just pulled it out of my Series X. This is my Black Ops 1 machine. Get in there. I don't know. I think people need to ease up on CD Projekt Red. I'm not saying ease up on any of its investors. I'm not saying ease up on Amazon or wherever you bought it from. I'm saying ease up on the people that are making the game that you want. I can't imagine the stress that they're going through right now. In a way, this feels a lot like No Man's Sky. I'm sure this comparison has been made already. I haven't seen it myself. But in a way, this feels a lot like No Man's Sky. You remember how insanely hyped up No Man's Sky was? Remember how it didn't live up to expectations? No Man's Sky is probably one of the better games out there right now, period. For those who stuck around and played update after update after update, once No Man's Sky fell into the backdrop and just waited and worked on itself and is now living its best life, good for them. Maybe that's what needs to happen with CyberPunk. It's not going to, because everybody's angry, or at least it's not going to happen for a while. It's still a very, very hot topic. The oven is still hot. We're gonna have to put it back in because it's not finished baking, but it burned my hands. Burned my hands, your hands, everybody who owns a PlayStation, everybody who owns an Xbox's hands. It's bad. It's real bad. But we knew this. Or we should have known this. The biggest thing to take away from this is, first of all, manage expectations. Right? You're allowed to be excited for something. I'm not saying don't be excited for something. Never. You're allowed to have something to look forward to. What I am saying is that just in case it isn't exactly what you imagined it to be, don't get super angry and demand a refund about it. It's what the game devs wanted you to experience. They didn't want you to experience, like early Roblox textures and all that stuff. But they did want you to experience Night City. They wanted you to experience what Cyberpunk 2077 had to offer, what they saw in that concept. And we're gonna look how we look back on No Man's Sky. If you watch any of those videos and you learn more about No Man's Sky, I can almost guarantee we're gonna do the same thing looking back on Cyberpunk. My point still stands that if more people had a PS5 and a Series X, this wouldn't be that big of an issue. We might not even get to the point where there are refunds. Maybe, but maybe a little later. What happened to Cyberpunk is just the result of a lot of different things. Microsoft and Sony dropping the ball with pre-orders and then losing God knows how much stock to scalpers and bots and resellers and eBay folk and whatnot. It's a shame, which is why I say, be kind to CD Projekt Red. I think they're trying their best, and maybe their best wasn't good enough. It's a muddy situation. Most things are, but this is one of those things. It's just gamers have such a sense of entitlement, myself included. I've been subject to that. Right? It's just we feel like we're just the best, and we deserve everything. I don't know. I hope that whatever the issue is actually does get patched out, and they said patches are coming in January, February, March, maybe. I don't remember the exact information I saw. But I hope that once those patches come out, people go back to the game and play it, because it's very fun to me. I hope that once people get their hands on a Series X or a PS5, if they want one, that they give the game a shot there, and it's still, I'm happy with it on PS5. It's a YouTube series now. Today we're recording this on Friday. Yesterday's upload was episode 1 of playing Cyberpunk on PS5. I like it. I liked it so far. A couple of bugs here and there, but every game has its own bugs, but those are mostly graphical. I haven't experienced anything game breaking yet. I'm sure I will. Excuse me. I don't know. I feel like Odd has run out of thoughts here on Odd's Thoughts. I know, the last episode was like an hour, but this one was a little short. Yeah. I encourage you to look into the issue yourself. Look into what's happening with Cyberpunk and whether you're interested or whether you want a refund and all that stuff. And do what makes sense for you. I just ask that you don't butcher CD Projekt Red, because it might not be their fault. We don't have all the information. I've brought up a lot of good questions here. This is not me giving you information. This is me opening a discussion that I hope you engage in, not only with me but with other people. Social media, right? Twitter, anybody, like maybe you know insiders, whatever it is that you want to get the information out of, go for it. I love you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, those of you watching on the YouTube channel. And for those of you listening on the podcast, I love you very much. Because the podcast, I love Pod Hour. And it's very exciting that I have something to do for Pod Hour now. And, yeah, that's the end of my spiel. If you enjoyed that, feel free to check out, Odd Hour content wherever you see fit. We're all over social media. We stream daily on Twitch. I stream daily on Twitch. YouTube channel. You might be here now. You might be listening on a podcast, but you should still come and check out my stuff. If you enjoyed this, I have a lot of stuff. Thank you. I love you. Take care.